Today's tutorial is this beautiful green smoky eye. I have a few green palettes that I wanted to try, so that is why I've created this tutorial. So I'm starting off with the eyes because there's going to be a lot of fall down. So I'm prepping my lids with a little bit of concealer. This one is the Too Faced Born This Way concealer. This is the Multi-Sculpting version, so it's the full coverage, which is great as a base because it neutralises the skin on the eyelid and it also preps it for the eyeshadow. It's going to allow it to stick to something. I'm working that in with my Real Techniques base shadow brush. I use this for so much, it's such a great multitasking brush. The reason I'm using this is because it is a liquid, so we don't want it to stick in the bristles, so this is the perfect brush because it is synthetic. The first palette I'm going to use is the Huda Beauty Emerald Obsessions palette. I've had so many requests for a tutorial using that, so predominantly this will be the palette that we're going to use. The first colour we're going to take is a matte finish and it's kind of like a muted olivey green. It's a cool tone which you can see straight away on the skin, there's no warmth to it. And we're going to work this over the lid, going up towards the brow bone, and we're using this as a transition shade, so it's going to be the colour we take the highest. This will be the shade that everything else blends into. So you want it to be blended well as it fades off, but don't worry about the blend too much on the lid as it comes down lower towards the lash line because we're going to be going over this with other shades. Just make sure the outer edge is blended well. I'm now going to dip into Savannah from my Safari palette by Natasha Denona, and again this is like an olivey green tone, it's just slightly more intense and a little bit deeper in colour, so it's still along the same lines as the transition shade but just a little bit deeper and more intense. So we're still taking it through the socket but we're not taking it up as high as the transition shade, that way we create a nice gradient between the two shades so it looks like it goes from intense almost to nothing towards that brow bone. And I'm using a small crease brush to apply this because it's splayed out but it's very small so I can be quite precise with it and it only applies a wash of colour. Before we apply some metallic shades, I'm going to use my NYX Jumbo Pencil in Milk. I'm using white because I want the metallic shades to be as true to the colour in the pan as possible. And the reason I'm using the pencil is because it's slightly more sticky. The concealer itself is kind of set in place, so I need something for the metallic shadows to stick to so they don't just fall down off of the eyes and they'll look a bit more vibrant and stay in place. So we're going back to the Huda Beauty palette. I'm using this metallic shade which is kind of like a chartreuse green, so it's slightly yellow and slightly green. And I'm going to use my fingers to apply all these metallic shades because they go on best when used with your finger, and the warmth from your finger kind of melts down the shimmery particles and it transforms it into more of a metallic finish. This next green is a little less chunky and we're layering this over the edge of the chartreuse colour and fading it across to the centre of the lid. Then we're going in with this deep metallic teal shade, again using my finger, and we're going to press this on the centre of the lid, overlapping the previous colour ever so slightly so they fade into each other, and then pulling that towards the outer edge. And then going in with this deep forest green shade and pressing this on the very outer corner and again overlapping onto that teal shade. The best way to overlap colours is to use a tapping motion because it feathers them together so it looks more seamless and it's a really effortless, easy way to blend eyeshadows. Going back to my Safari palette, I'm now going to mix together Savannah and Rhino. Both have a matte finish and they are a medium green, so we're going to work this over the seam of where those metallic eyeshadows meet the socket. We want that nice transition between eyeshadows and skin. Again, I'm using my small crease brush to do this because I can use a really light hand and I'm not applying too much product, and I'm just working that through the socket, slowly building up the shade. I always like to go back over with a clean blending brush to make sure everything's really soft and well blended. Along my waterline, I'm applying this Delilah Eyeliner Retractable Eyeliner Pencil in the shade Twig, which is a dark brown. And I'm building this up till it's quite intense. And I'm also going to use it to tight line along the eye as well. You could definitely wear a black eyeliner, you don't have to wear brown. To line my top lash line, I'm using my Milani Stay Put Matte Eyeliner. I would use a green one, but the one I had in mind has actually dried up. So I'm going to use this as a base and then I'm going to go over it with a green eyeshadow. And for this I'm just creating a wing, but I'm not going to worry too much as we're going to be smoking it out later. So I'm going into my Milk Cosmetics Smoke Sessions palette. I'm taking the shade Space Queen, which is a really deep matte teal, and on an angled liner brush I'm pressing this onto the eyeliner. So as you can see, it's just changing the colour a bit. If you did have a deep dark green eyeliner, then use it. But if you don't, this is a great way just to adjust the colour that you've got to make it the tone that you want for your eyeshadow. I'm now using my mini detailer brush and I'm using a small stippling motion to pull the colour from the eyeliner across towards the socket of the eye so we get a graduation. We've created a bit of a wing and now we're smoking that wing out. I'm taking the same green from the Milk Cosmetics palette and I'm running that underneath the lower lash line all the way across. I'm also going to pour that colour up towards the wing, and then over the top of it I'm going to press in some of the teal green from the Huda Beauty palette just using my finger. And then using what's left on the brush, I'm smoking that out with my eye open to make sure we've got a nice almond shape. Going back to the Milk Cosmetics palette, I'm taking Sweet Tooth, which is a cool tone metallic mint green, and I'm pressing that on the inner corner of the eye using my finger, and I'm also pulling it across the chartreuse colour that we've got on the lid because I love that vibrant metallic finish. For mascara, I'm going to be using my Marc Jacobs Velvet Noir, but they've also brought out a new eyelash primer. So I'm using that on my lashes first. This is a great way to add volume and drama to your lashes without having to apply layers of mascara. This way your mascara will last longer because you only have to apply one coat. And it should really take you less time because by the time you've finished applying your primer to your bottom lashes, you can then start to apply your mascara to your top lashes. Also, I've done my brows off camera. I've used my MAC Shape and Shade brow pen, which I have a tutorial on and I will link it on screen for you. Off camera, I'm applying these Party Babe lashes by Flawless Lashes by Loretta in the style 514. For skin, I'm going to use my BareMinerals BarePro Full Coverage Foundation, and I'm going to use a velvet sponge to apply that to my skin. I forgot how much I love this foundation. It's so nice. It feels good on the skin. It doesn't break me out. It lasts all day, especially because I am oily. And it may look a bit yellow now, but it will all come together in the end. For concealer, I'm going to use the Too Faced Born This Way Multi-Sculpting Concealer. And I'm applying a very small amount of that underneath the eyes. And then again, I'm going to press this into the skin with my dampened sponge. We're going to fake a little bit of shadow into the hollows of the cheeks. My favourite product for this is the Kevyn Sculpting Powder. It's a really nice cool tone and it's very subtle, but it just makes the hollows of your cheeks look a little bit more sunken. To warm up the cheekbones, I'm going to use my Hoola Bud Benefit, and I'm going to use that on my IT Cosmetics Heavenly Luxe Dual Foundation Brush. So I like to apply this just above the contour area so it sits on the cheekbone, and then once I've applied it with a powder, I like to go with my sponge to press it into the skin so it almost just makes it look like it's one with the skin rather than sitting on the skin. I'm also taking that bronzer around my hairline and working it into the scalp so it doesn't look like it stops where my hairline stops. I'm warming up the base so it matches the rest of my body. On the apples of my cheeks, I'm pulling the colour backwards. I'm using this shade called Dusk by Delilah Cosmetics, and this is kind of a peachy tone. It's really beautiful and it really complements the green on the eyes. And for ease, I'm just using the same brush I used for the bronzer. So that blush sits in line with the bronzer, only it sits a little bit further forward as we didn't take the bronzer onto the cheeks. So it's really similar in placement, it's just a little bit further forward for the blush and a little bit further set back for the bronzer. Next I'm taking this Colour Intense Cream Lipstick by Delilah. This is in the shade Foxy. It's a really beautiful soft peachy tone, again quite similar to the colour that we've got on the cheeks and complements the green beautifully. I'm adding a very small amount of champagne pop to my Cupid's bow and a tiny amount on the very centre of my nose. Then I'm going to use this cream colour base in Hush on the tops of my cheekbones for a little subtle pop of highlight. I don't want anything too intense because we've got a lot going on the skin and the eyes. And that completes this week's tutorial. I hope you've enjoyed it. Don't forget all the products I've used will be listed and linked in the description bar below. If you've got any comments or any questions, leave them in the comment section and I'll do my best to get back to you. If you'd like to follow me outside of YouTube, my social handles will be on screen. If you missed last week's tutorial, it will also be on screen. Thank you for watching and I'll see you again soon. Bye!